Well, there it is. That is the weekly haul. Everything I brought home from my local comic book store this past week. When I say this past week, of course, I mean last week, or in the case of this book, last month. But even though I am a little behind the eight ball in getting this video out, I did still want to put it out there anyway, just in order to talk about something else that I brought home in this weekly haul. And that would be this bad boy right here, the 50th annual Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide. So you tell me, is there still a place for this thing, what was once known as the Bible of the comic collecting hobby? Is there still a place for it in the digital age, or is that just a big old doorstop? Well, we'll talk about that and more, so stick around. Hey there, Bubby. Welcome to Shanghai. My name is Duke, and this is the weekly haul. A quick down and dirty on everything I brought home from my local comic book store this past week, new release day being September 23rd, 2020. And of course, when I say a quick down and dirty, I tend to go off on tangents here and there, especially when I am complaining about different aspects of the collecting hobby and the direct sales market. So you may want to avail yourself of a snack, get a nice beverage, settle in. You could be here for a few minutes. So let me first get the business out of the way. First of all, please like, share, subscribe, do all the groovy things. Even if you end up hating this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs down, leave a negative comment. That's great. At this point, it's still a new channel, and I can use any interaction I can get to hip the algorithm to my existence. The other thing, of course, all of these books are shown under fair use for purposes of review and commentary, so no copyright strikes, if you please. And finally, I do want to mention, and I will put the address up at the bottom of the screen. As most of you know, I work for a company that buys and sells comic books online. My primary job is grading the books that we sell on eBay, but sometimes I have side jobs, and lately I have been working on mystery boxes, and the latest round are Series 2 mystery boxes, 250 boxes. They're almost sold out, so you're going to want to jump quick, but they are 10 randomly selected books, anything from Golden Age to Modern Age, and I mention this because I'm the guy who did the random selecting. So if you get a box from us and you don't like the selection you got, well, at the very least, you know who to be pissed off at. That would be me. But I can guarantee you, I'm pretty certain, because I did about 90% of the boxes in this round, I'm pretty certain you're going to like the mix you get. Again, it's 10 books for $30. That includes postage. And 1 in 8 will have an 11th bonus book. If you go to either of those websites listed below, then you can go ahead and see what those 11th books are. But I will tell you, one of the bonus 11th books is an Amazing Spider-Man 252. So go ahead and avail yourself of that. Like I said, there were 250 in this series, and we're getting down to the last of them. So go ahead, hey, see what you get. And if you do an unboxing video, please tag me. I love watching videos of people unboxing our mystery boxes. Okay, so that's it. That's the commercial. So you've made it through that. You've got your snack. You're ready to go. So let's get into it. And we're going to start with this book. And probably most of you know that that book has been out for a while, actually. Adventure Man #3 from Image Comics by Matt Fraction, Terry, and Rachel Dodson. This actually came out back on August 12th. Why am I just now getting it? Well, because the store is just now getting it, or at least now getting a saleable copy. So when this came out on August 12th, stores everywhere got it. We did not. Diamond shorted us for some reason. Who knows why? But apparently, under their philosophy, if you're a small store, basically screw you. That's how that goes. And I do believe I'm the only one in my store that has this on a pull list. I don't think the store orders many copies above the pull list, just for the shelf. So when this came out on August 12th, Diamond shorted us. We didn't get any. So what do? Well, you get on the horn and you do some what the helling. But of course, in the post-COVID atmosphere, Diamond has done away with account representatives. When Steve Jeppy, the president of Diamond, says our comeback will be bigger than our setback, well, apparently being better than you ever were means doing away with account representatives. So stores no longer have a personal advocate at Diamond. So you can't even talk to somebody if there's a problem with your order. The best you can do is send an email out into the ether and hope for the best. So a couple of weeks later, no, actually more than a couple of weeks, 3 or 4, I think it was close to a month, this book finally came in. No explanation, no apology, no acknowledgement of the error, just, oh, there it was in the order 1 week. But what we got was damaged. Now that's not uncommon because, as you probably know, Diamond books, they are just books in a box, no packing material at all to speak of, just books flopping around in there, and they do tend to come damaged as often as not. But this particular book, when it came in, looked like it had to have been damaged before it went into the box. I saw it when it came out, and the damage that it had didn't look like it could have been picked up from just jostling around inside the box. It literally looked like it had been stepped on. So, and then you ground in on the back cover. So, that's Diamond for you. So we had to send it back and be like, no, please try again. So finally on September 23rd, this book that should have come out on August 12th arrived. Well, I guess the best thing I can tell you, and you may be able to see this just by flipping through it, it was worth the wait. I mean, this book is just absolutely beautiful. And Matt Fraction, he is knocking it out of the park on the story. I love this book. So, good things come to those who wait, I guess. So are you buying Adventure Man? If not, I recommend it highly. If your store doesn't already have copies on the shelf, good luck getting any from Diamond. You may have to wait for the next trade. And speaking of tangents, one thing that I think of when I look through this book, if I ever hit the lottery and started my own comic book company, and of course, if I hit the lottery, starting my own comic book company is exactly what I would do. I would start off by buying the Sid and Marty Krofft characters. Now, if you're not my age, Gen X, you probably don't even know what that means, Sid and Marty Krofft. But if you are familiar with those characters, imagine a comic book line that included Land of the Lost by Frank Cho, H.R. Pufnstuf by Scotty Young, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters by Eric Powell, or The Bugaloos by Mike Allred. This is some groovy stuff, right? Well, what I would do with Electro Woman and Dyna Girl is I'd make it like a weekly book, almost like the Superman books were back in the 80s and 90s. Do you remember the triangle numbering, where it was 4 different titles, but effectively operated as a single book? I'd have all 4 books written by Matt Fraction, and they would be Electro Woman by Terry Dodson, Dyna Girl by Amanda Connor, Electro Woman and Dyna Girl by Kevin McGuire, and probably a Krofft Super Show anthology with Electro Woman and Dyna Girl by Adam Hughes. Now, I challenge you to tell me that would not sell in the marketplace. But that's, I guess, something I can just dream of. Until then, I have to content myself with Adventure Man, a great, great book. Moving on, Daredevil and the Marvel books have the tribute to Chadwick Boseman there. That's nice. Daredevil is hands down, I believe, the best book currently being published at Marvel. And I understand, yes, that is a low bar when you say the best book at Marvel, but I don't mean that as faint praise. Daredevil is, in fact, an outstanding book. Now, when I started this channel, the purpose nominally was to be a place for comic book reviews. And here I am 35 videos in, and I haven't posted a single review yet. And that's partly because I'm a nice guy. I hate being mean to people, doing bad reviews. I started a review of the recent Daredevil annual, and I was not a fan of that book. And I haven't posted it just because I really didn't want to rag on Chip Zdarsky, because, hey, you can't hit it out of the park every single time. And this run of Daredevil has been home run after home run after home run. And so even though I didn't like the annual, not just because of the big shocking surprise in it, but just because of how that surprise was handled, how it was brought off, I just didn't think it was particularly well done. But that said, I highly, highly recommend the regular Daredevil title written by Chip Zdarsky. This book is just excellent, and it's right now a good jumping on place. Coming out of that annual and into the new storyline with, here it is, Daredevil under arrest for murder. Ooh, what's going to happen? It's a good book. The Goddamned, The Virgin Brides. I can't actually tell you very much about this book. This is the third issue. I haven't got around to reading the first couple. I got a little behind in my reading this summer. I can tell you I bought it specifically because of Jason Aaron. I bought it on name value alone. I have really liked what Jason Aaron has done at Marvel, on Doctor Strange, on Thor, and so I bought it really just because of him. So at this point, I will probably wait until the entire 5-issue series is done and sit down and go through the whole thing in one sitting and post one review of the entire series, assuming I ever do get around to doing reviews. One thing this book does bring up, though, is kind of a discussion point. It used to be that new writers would start out, down at the small publishers, the independent publishers. They would work up to the mid-tier, like Dark Horse or Image, and then end up at Marvel and DC. It seems like lately that's working in reverse. You've got a lot of people at Marvel and DC who are going to Image to do their own thing, to do their own properties, rather than working on the corporate characters and the editorial control. They're saving their best ideas for Image. And so you've got a lot of people like Jason Aaron still working at Marvel and DC, but also doing a lot of work for mostly for Image as well. And I just kind of think that's interesting, a different trend. Let me know, what do you think about that? I can say that most of the Image books I'm buying because of the writer and because I am familiar with them from Marvel and DC. And again, that's the opposite. Once upon a time, I would buy books from people at Marvel and DC because I had seen their work in smaller books. Shazam number 15. This is the last issue. I'm kind of sad to see this book go. I have enjoyed it quite a great deal, far more than I ever expected to. I am missing issue 12, so I haven't read anything since that. I'm missing issue 12 because DC Comics' new distributor, UCS, which is a division of Midtown Comics, completely dropped the ball when DC threw the switch and was like, everybody over the rails, out of Diamond right now, into one of our 2 lifeboats we've set up. Well, UCS couldn't set theirs up fast enough and just completely mishandled getting a lot of those accounts created. And in the case of my local store, everything was done on time. Everything was done correctly. They screwed it up. And so we ended up not getting any DC books for about 6 weeks, almost 2 months. And so I'm missing a lot of books. Some series like Plunge, I just dropped, because why, if you're missing one issue of a limited series and there's no hope of getting it, then, why even bother sticking with it? Hawkman, Shazam, my 2 favorite DC titles, both now canceled, of course, because that's how DC rolls these days. And of course, part of this problem is that DC is apparently only printing to fill pre-orders. So UCS, their explanation is that, well, DC didn't send us enough books. Well, no, you didn't order enough books because you didn't get all the accounts created that you needed to get created soon enough, even though the orders were into you soon enough and everything was done properly on our end. And the thing, I got to tell you this, the thing that really pisses me off is that I could go to Midtown Comics, right, UCS's parent company, and I could get the Shazam 12, the Hawkman 25, the Plunge 3, the books that UCS never sent us. They've got those books. So it's not that, oh, DC didn't send us enough books. No. You've got those books. You just don't have them for us. So that's what really pisses me off. So I got to find those books that I'm missing, and I'm definitely not going to buy them from Midtown, I can tell you that. And of course, the other thing about Shazam is, other than Shazam and Batman 3 Jokers. Jeff Johns doesn't seem to have anything on the docket at DC, and that frightens me a little bit because, instead of going with, writers who just write good, fun adventure stories like Jeff Johns, DC seems to be going instead with the progressive army. I hate to throw around the buzzwords like woke and SJW and things like that, but Mark Waid, Ron Mars, Mags Vasiggio. I mean, if this is the wave coming in, I have been, in the last few years, even though I am a DC guy, always have been since the mid-'70s. The last few years, I've been buying fewer and fewer DC comics. And, with this new wave coming in, it could end up being no DC comics. So, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I don't know. Mark Waid used to be, and I've said this before, Mark Waid used to be my favorite writer, but he's in the Trump deranged, not that I'm a fan of Trump, mind you, but the Orange Man Bad era, Waid has just lost his mind. And Ron Mars is just a dick to fans online. And, Vags Vasiggio, whatever her name is, she's just pure evil. So, and then you've got, who is that editor at DC, the one who harassed the poor woman with the dog? I mean, yeah, she's walking a dog without a leash, but dude, put down your soy latte, grow a set of balls, and act like a man. Of course she freaked out at you. If you're a woman and you've got this dude, black, white, whatever, walks up and starts harassing you, filming you with a camera, you're gonna freak out. I mean, for a woman, that's kind of, for a lot of them, that's their defense mechanism. So that guy is just a dick too. And I know I'm gonna catch all kinds of flack for saying that, and people will flag this video, but hey, All right, next book, Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy. I bought this book really just because of the title. And this is issue 4, and it's another one I haven't got around to reading yet because I'm behind on my reading. And I do have to say, had I known from the onset when I ordered this that it was part of Jeff Lemire's Black Hammer universe, I probably would not have bought it. And that's not a knock on Jeff Lemire or the Black Hammer stuff. It's just that these days, if you're not in on the ground floor of something, it feels like you can't get in at all. So I probably would have given this a pass, but not knowing it was part of another universe, just the title, Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy, I was like, okay, sure. I'll take a chance on that, and I'll see what that's all about. And, it's a good-looking book, so it's a little, as you can see there, a little decompressed. I'm sure this entire issue is going to read in about, less than 10 minutes. But I'm looking forward to seeing what it's all about once I finally sit down to read it. If you're already reading that, let me know in the comments below what you think of it. This is another book, Undiscovered Country, that I haven't got around to reading yet, and that's partly because of another Diamond screw-up. I got issue 1. We got shorted on issue 2, so I never got issue 2. And because it's Scott Snyder, I did continue to buy it. So I got 3, I got 4. It was probably around the time 5 came in. We also got issue 2. I think it was a second or third print. But by that time, I was so far behind, I hadn't read it because I missed the issue 2 that I haven't read this at all yet. And I think at this point, I'm probably just going to go ahead and drop it. This is probably my last issue. And that's mostly because the reaction that I have seen online to this book has been primarily, meh, not a lot of people seem all that excited about it. So, and maybe once I do sit down and read these first 8 issues, including the second or third print of number 2, maybe I will regret that decision. But for now, I think I'm just going to end up dropping it. What are you going to do? So if you think that's a bad decision, if you think that, oh my God, you totally should be buying and reading that book, please say so in the comments below. All right, and now we are on to the price guide, the 50th annual comic book price guide. And I will let you know, let's see if I can find it. The fellas that I work for are Overstreet advisors, and they are one of the columns in here. There it is right there. Ashley Cotter-Cairns and Sean Goodrich of sellmycomicbooks.com. Hopefully I have that on camera where you can see it. So they wrote a column. You'll notice that doesn't say and Duke Harrington. They did not consult me. And I know you're shocked. You're like, oh my God, Duke, you know everything about comic books, up to and including all of the things. How could they not consult you on their column? But sad to say, they did not. I'm joking, of course. No, nor should they. But what do you think of the comic book price guide? Is there a place for it today in the digital era? Do you use it at all? I mean, the main knock on Overstreet is that by the time it comes out, it's already outdated. That it doesn't list everything the way it once did. That maybe the prices are too high. They don't reflect the actual trading prices. If you go on eBay, I guarantee you, anything you buy on eBay, you're going to get it less than for what it shows in here. So is this really, as it purports to be, an average of prices realized during the previous year? It also doesn't really have CGC prices in it. It just goes up to near mint minus as a raw price. And then it tells you in there that, CGC books, slabbed books have a multiplier. So, I don't know what really to say. And even the columns that I used to love, now in the internet era, you can go and get these opinions anywhere online. And I just hit the tripod. That was not an earthquake. We don't get many earthquakes here in Maine. But these opinions, I can get there anywhere. So what good is it here? Especially when there's no kind of overall column sort of encapsulating and summarizing all of the various opinions. So, I guess I really don't know myself what to make of the Overstreet, but I bought it this year because it is the 50th annual. So let me tell you a little bit of my history with Overstreet. My first Overstreet was the 10th edition, and kind of a little interesting story. Interesting to me anyway. You probably won't care, but I can't remember my first comic book. Comic books they're just something that's always been a part of my life. The first book that I can vividly remember buying off the stands, even though it was purchased for me, buying it off the stands was basically me pointing at it and making Eric Cartman noises until my mother bought it for me, was this book, Justice League of America number 115. So this would have been on the stands in October 1974. And from that point on, pretty much, I was making my own purchasing decisions. I was, 6 going on 7 then. It wasn't too much longer before I would get a weekly allowance, $2 a week, which was a lot of money in the mid 70s, and when comic books were 25 cents, for your allowance money, that was pretty good. So by 1980, I had a collection of pretty close to a couple thousand comic books. Now memory is a funny thing. I say a couple thousand, and maybe it was closer to a couple hundred, but as I remember it, it was getting right up there to close to a couple thousand. But then in August of 1980, we had a house fire, or actually I should say a trailer fire. So it went up quick, and all the comic books were lost. All of my Micronauts, all of my Matchbox, all of my Mego action figures, all gone. Nothing but the clothes on my back. And because the clothes that we got donated or purchased at Goodwill didn't really cut it, and I was just about to go into the 7th grade. I think when the fire happened, it was like, a week before 7th grade was supposed to start. We ended up at the Maine Mall clothes shopping. Of course, being a 12-year-old boy at this point, I had not much more fashion sense then than I do now, and could only stand clothes shopping for just so long. So at some point, my mother turned around and I was not there. Well, luckily, knowing her son, she knew where to find me. I was in the bookstore where I had discovered, again, the 10th edition of the comic book price guide, and it was a revelation. Because you got to understand, there were really in central Maine no comic book stores at all at this time period. You couldn't get old comic books other than trading with friends, the occasional lawn sale. So just seeing the pictures of all of these old books, just seeing confirmed that, if I'm buying, Justice League 140 something, that there was actually an issue 1, 2, 3, and here they are. Oh my God. And then even the ads, right? Just realizing that the San Diego Comic-Con was a thing. And I swore for years, like every year after that first edition, I swore next year I'm going to Comic-Con. And I swore that every year until maybe finally just a few years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm never going to have enough money to make that cross-country trip. And, Comic-Con isn't really about comic books anymore, so why bother? Uh, but just the price guide, it just blew my mind. But the reason I tell you this story is that I got my first Overstreet price guide when I did not own a single comic book. And so I bought it religiously for years after that. And it was 2000. Sainted wife Sheila and I were together, not yet married, and we were moving into our second apartment. And after a long day of moving in boxes, the only thing left to come in was a box of price guides that I had in my trunk. And I was like, you know what? When I get all books arranged, when I get the comic book room, set, I'll bring those in. There's just no place to bring them in right now. And so they sat in my trunk for probably 3 or 4 weeks. And by the time I finally went out to get them, well, sad story, my trunk was apparently not as watertight as I had presumed it to be, and they were all waterlogged. They were all lost. And it broke my heart because I used to pore over those price guides. I would take a highlighter and highlight every book I owned, circle in pencil the books that I wanted, circle in ink the ones I really wanted, and there was just no greater joy in life than taking a highlighter and filling in one of those inked circles. So it killed me. And I ended up selling them on eBay, which I ended up taking a loss because I miscalculated how much the shipping would be. So I think I ended up having to pay to get rid of the damn things because the bid itself was not very high. Somebody wasn't going to pay a lot for a bunch of waterlogged price guides. So after that sort of broke the trend for me. Just as my buying toys kind of ended with a house fire, and I never got into any of the toy lines that came along afterwards, the G.I. Joes, the Transformers. I was going into junior high school, I kind of had a hard break on toys, and pretty much apart from comic books, kind of grew up then, set aside the childish things. And so I missed a lot of that stuff that had I still had all of my other toys, I probably still would have continued buying, if only as well, I'm not buying these to play with them, I'm just collecting them, a kind of mentality. But again, I had that hard break. And so, once I lost the price guides, I had a hard break there. And I only bought the price guide sporadically since then. Maybe 3, 4, half a dozen price guides have I purchased, but I could not resist this one just because it was the 50th. And because of that history, the memory, the nostalgia. Now, my nostalgia only goes so far, though. One of the co-owners of the store, Ashley, he had the store manager by Overstreet has put out, or I say Overstreet, I guess it's Gemstone, I should say, put out a replica of the first Overstreet price guide. And had I still had all of my old price guides, I probably would have jumped at that. But as I don't, I looked at it and I was like, $17. I don't know. So I passed on that replica of the first price guide, but I could not resist this one just for old time's sake. And it's not a cheap book. Does it say on here? It's like $35. So yeah, it's not cheap. But again, I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Is the price guide useful to you at all? Oh, more Drew. Go home. You're drunk. Is the price guide useful to you at all? But again, it doesn't list everything. And I wonder, does it even, could it just list in an archival sense to document that they exist, all of these books that effectively sell for cover price or less? Because you see, it's just got the near mint price and nothing else. That pretty much means cover price or less. I don't know what to make of this. What would you do? Would you pay for, because Overstreet has steadfastly resisted putting its data online. What would you do? Would you pay some kind of monthly fee to access a database of prices online? There are places that have it free or by a service. Comic Book Realm, is one. The CLZ collecting app also is another. What if the data also include a database so that you could keep track of your collection, kind of like the CLZ app? Would you be more likely to either buy as a one-time purchase software or as a subscription fee, something like Overstreet Online, where the prices are updated regularly, and you could sort of keep track of your own collection, maybe buy and sell online? I don't know. I don't know why Overstreet has resisted that, and I don't know really what use. Well, I mean, the classics line here certainly is, because I haven't found any place online that really gives all of the highest reprint number and edition information the way Overstreet does. But the rest of it, I mean, you can find a lot of this stuff online. So do you need the book? I really don't know. How many copies does this thing even sell anymore? And of course, in the internet era, things have changed. They used to have big, full-color, glossy sections of comic book covers. Well, with the internet, they don't have those sections anymore at all. So I don't know. I keep saying that, but I really am stymied. I just don't know what to make of Overstreet and what place it has in the modern world. Because I got to tell you, if I need to know how much something is worth, I'm as likely to go to the CGC database. I'm as likely to check eBay for recent selling prices, or to go to Comic Book Realm. I'm more likely to do any of those things than I am to walk over and pick up this price guide. And like I said, all of the columns in here, there's really nothing in here that anybody has to say that you can't find those same opinions online. So I really don't know. But you tell me. But anyway, that is the haul for this past week. There's more Drew. We'll let him lay down because he is a little drunk. And that's the haul right there. And other than that, that may not be everything there is to say about what came out this past week, September 23rd. But by gory, that's all I know. So until next time, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other.